Good evening everyone, welcome to another video in my art tutorial stuff. I'm Omega and this is... I'd like to thank him for joining us this evening. We're going to be looking at doing some muscle building stuff on characters and anything that Basil would like to talk about a bit later. So let's start with the sketches we did last time. I say muscle building, I do mean just general body part building, to be honest. So, for example, that includes the arms on our gadget-esque character here. Oh, thank you very much. At least someone reminded me this time. Last time I got through the entire video without showing a single thing. So yes. Or the first time actually. So yeah, building basic body components onto a character like here. Doing back posing on characters like this. Body shape posing on characters like this one. And lastly, some musculature stuff on this character. So, where do you want to start?
Actually, why don't you start off with the side pose and stuff?
Okay. So we're going to do some side pose stuff first. I'm going to put another layer on quickly, and we're looking at, I'm going to use a slightly different colour this time. Right, there we go, darker colour. So we're showing, so we've got our wireframe underneath, which we've seen before. So we followed the lines down for bodywork and stuff like that as they curl around and all that. This time we're going to start putting stuff on top of that line. So I'm just going to sketch in the major joints for this character. So you got your arm, your shoulders. Where your neck is, we're putting in a triangle, and downward sloped shoulders are finishing off that triangle there. Like over here, these are raised shoulders. We've got the triangle of the neck, but these are upward raised shoulders, so the triangle top, the flat side of the triangle is at the top. Am I making sense? Yep. So we got that triangle put in, we've got that ball in, and we bring it down to the snake hips. Now, with the thing that a lot of people forget is your spine actually bends out slightly from the base of your neck and then back in towards as it goes down, right? So the basic line of the body follows that similar line. So I'm going to add in basic body without anything else, like arms or anything like that, into this form. Just briefly. Remember, if you go too far, the wonderful thing about digital is you can always remove lines you don't like using either the opacity setting or the brush setting, just to remove entire sections. So like, if I didn't like a bit, I could either stick it onto opacity and just rub it out carefully and gently. Especially with a pencil, you can use it to really lighten out an area. Or I can use the erase tool and just remove entire sections. The tablet that I use is a Wacom tablet. I can't remember which one it is. It's one of the Cintiq models, but it is, one of the things that I like about it is the pen is double-ended. So at one end I've got my stylus, so I can draw. At the other end I've got my pen, my rubber, just like an ordinary pencil. Mm. The Cintiq sets you back a fair bit, though. This cost the better part of, I'm going to say, USN, probably about half a grand minimum. So they can get expensive. You can find they can cost about half a grand. That is the I know that is the issue, but that is the Wacom tablet. There are lots of other makes and manufacturers out there. I would recommend going and having a look on sites and seeing what they suggest. So that's
I'm just saying the fact that yours has the erased set it up so that way the eraser's on the other end.
oh
That
yeah,
would ease me into digital.
yep. But you can set up all kinds of shortcuts on your keyboard and on your tablet. If you purchase a tablet that has buttons, mine has a series of buttons. I've got um, four little buttons on the side, and I've got a roundel around my Windows key. But that you can't see that because it's not visible from where you are, obviously. So yeah, that is the issue with this kind of stuff. It costs quite a lot of money to get into it. I would say if you can, I would go for one of the lower brand ones. Wacom also make. I don't know if they still do the Bamboo series, but when I started out doing art myself on computer, I used their Bamboo range, which allowed me to draw using the mouse, using the mouse on screen, but I didn't have a screen on the tablet. The current tablet I use is a screen tablet, which means that I am literally drawing directly onto what I'm doing. Whereas if you use the Bamboo variants, they don't have a screen built into them. There are lots of different ways around it. You can do all kinds of stuff. There are quite a few now other companies that produce tablets that you can draw straight onto. Along with this tablet, the setup I have on my desktop, I also have an iPad, which I draw on quite a lot nowadays.
I think it probably my best nightmare would be finding a decent tablet, like an actual tablet.
A tablet computer, yeah, yeah. Surface, the Microsoft Surface series are good for it. I don't know about many of the others. I think Lenovo ones are quite good as well. But
I could say how good or two
yeah, the issue you have is getting the tablet software that runs properly for what you want. It's taken two of my best friends both use their iPad a lot more to draw with than I do, and they've been searching around for the last couple of weeks finding a good program to do artwork on. So last month they've been searching high and low for a decent artwork program to use. Right. So back to the artwork. Before we get too bogged down, we're now going to start adding in other parts of this character. So first of all, we're bringing in the elbow and the arm. You feel free to adjust as often as you need to get that positioning correct. So this is going to be quite a slim arm, not much in the way of musculature. Elbow. And they're using the erase tool to the opacity setting to take out all the internal details I don't want to keep at the moment. There we go.
you just said screw all connecting somehow managed to figure out how to do that.
Well, for that blocky thing, that is just the start of it, because I'm now adding in more detail, and then I can divide that into digits, and when I come to sort that out later, I can then round it out into proper fingers, which I will do. But that is just to give me the basic positioning of a hand.
It's not finished. It's just stuff.
Yeah, this is still a sketch layer. So we've got the head, which we might do some more work on a bit later. Yep. Shiam Danger Noodle. So for the most part, that is the side-on view for this character. Torso looks a bit weird when you consider where it is, its positioning and all that, when you consider that the rest of the body is this snake tail. So it's not quite attached in the same way as a normal body is. But there you go.
I guess for fantasy animal source have some
Stuff going on, yeah.
like centaurs and nagas.
Yeah. So that's our side-on view. We're now going to do the raised arm stuff over here. So first on, we've got the spine flow there. So we've got the shoulders we put in a minute ago. And I'm now going to put that in, bring that down to these hips. Also going to put in the chest that I want to give this character. So we're going to basic outline for the clothing to decide what kind of what kind of tightness of formation the clothing will give this character's upper torso.
Of course, I think that way too much of this detail is just like, oh, I got just like.
So also last time I showed you to putting in the hip lines like that, which help define where legs and stuff like that join. So now continue those on. So we've got the legs down to the feet. Feet are an odd kind of trapezoidal shape. I think the best way that someone put it is imagine drawing a hoof. So you've got the hoof and you've got the sides of the hoof and then it comes down like that. Straight on, a foot will look a lot like that. Right? Basil?
Yeah, I get you.
So we're putting our foot in like that. So you've got the upper leg, putting the knee in there. I'm going to put a triangle in for the knee, because the kneecap is an elongated shape connecting to the leg. Connects back down that way. So putting in there, bringing it down, bring that in higher up to bring it down to the foot. Now the outer leg is a long gentle curve in towards the bottom. The inner leg is much sharper sudden towards the base of the joint. Over here we've got the back leg, the offset side leg, we've got the kneecap going in there, and then the other leg coming down there. I'm going to sketch in that. There's the heel for the other foot. Is that all making sense so far?
No, I'm more or less getting the
Yeah.
When I drew, I did a lot of line breaks.
Yeah. Hopefully this week I'll be putting up the short video I did. I'm not pleased with it. I do sound like a 2-year-old giving a book report. I did a very short 3-minute video on the stuff that I use when if I do paper-based traditional artwork.
I say it so long as you can combine a pencil and paper and an eraser, we're golden.
Yeah, but there are other tools you can use like light boxes.
Yep.
So there we
We'll
go.
say this. We'll say this. Don't ever pick anything paper made when it comes to erasers. The erasers are horrible. Ugh.
For doing artwork like this, I would actually recommend a kneadable eraser. You can buy erasers that you can basically shape them with your fingers to get the correct shape you want. Then you use them lightly to get into the gaps you want, to take out the shavings you want, to take out the shaping you want from the picture. So here again we've got the hand. Not going to bother with the thumb that time actually, because that's one big old wrench that she's carrying. That's alright. Now, when you're doing this, feel free to overlap onto your sketch layer where you're putting things. Do as much or as little work as you need to get things into the right position.
Comfortable less. I mean, of course, there comes a point where you're doing a little bit too much of one thing or another.
Yeah.
But if you're, like I said, if you're more comfortable with less, do less. If you're more comfortable with more.
Yep, that is a very good way of looking at it. So there we got the arms going in now. So put this hand in. Again, another kind of horseshoe shape for the fingers. If you look at your fingers, when you put the knuckles in a line, it does form an odd kind of shape.
Yes. A lot of people say it all the time, but it's true. Hands are the internet of hands.
Yeah. What was the line from out of old Harry's game? I've never been able to get my head around feet. It's kind of like hooves with frills on them.
It's just obscene at how hard hands are. They look so like they would be so simple to draw. No matter how meticulous you are, something always seems off.
Yeah. So we're going to leave that character now. Going to come back to her a bit later. But you can see the structure is much more detailed than the baseline we had earlier. Let's come over to... Should we do the kneeling wolf? Now, as we've said before, he's kneeling. A lot of his lines are significantly shorter than normal. So here's putting in shoulders. You've basically squashed we've basically squashing majority of his skeletal structure downwards as we go. So there's his shoulder joints. Elbow. Slightly more splayed hand this time, and with only 3 digits. Mm. So we're going to be adding a lot more of his pectoral structure in. So majority of his upper body is taken up this time by his chest, and his abdominal area is almost invisible because it's hidden by his chest. It's back here, leading down into this section here. So put the leg in, gentle curve back round down to there, much stronger curve in there, kneecap, and then taking it back towards the back of his leg. So there's the other side of his leg coming in. Upper bulge of his calf muscle down to his leg. So his leg is made up of a oddly shaped pyramid like that. His foot is made up of. Then we add on top of that the toe shape here. If he's barefooted, we put the arch in. If he's going to be wearing shoes, we leave the arch out. So his other hand going in there, and we drop the rest of the hand down there as a single block that we will add more detail to later. And bring this shoulder out, upward slightly, and then finally down. So move that shoulder up a bit to make it match properly. Elbow is almost invisible now because most of it is hidden behind his arm. Finishing off the head detail there. Just going to put hair in now just to remind me of where the top of his head is. So if we take away the layers we have been working on for him, it's still understandable what he's doing. Yep. And lastly, we've got Mighty Mouse over here. And we're doing a lot more muscle depth on this character. So let's start by looking at previous muscle stuff. Over here, you may have noticed under here the bulk of the connecting section between the bottom of the arm and into the torso. The more heavily built a person is, the more that area bulges out. So actually going to drop that down ever so slightly because she's not so heavily built. So back with the opacity tool, with the transparency tool, rather. And then just refill everything out. So you can't really see it on her that well. You can't see it on him at all. But you are, if he raised an arm, you would see it on him. So let's start at the top. Traps. So I'm going to put his head in briefly. So when we put these in, they look like they make more sense. Shoulder muscles look a little bit like a shoulder pad for all intents and purposes at this stage. Can add more detail if we wanted to, but it's going to get covered up later, so there's not much point. Just going to undo all that. So let's start with where his torso is. So the legs have basically 3 groups of muscles. There's a muscle set here, muscle set here, muscle set here. So that top set muscles are somewhat like that, leading into a teardrop around the kneecap. Right? Bring out to the side here, and bring out to the side here. Again, diving in quite tightly back towards the kneecap. So you got the connecting sinew there, then we got muscle group here, muscle group here. Again, leading back down towards foot. So I'm going to bulk those out ever so slightly. So got his foot here. Again, we've got that horseshoe shape. So now we're going to do it back to the torso. Neck coming in. The sinews here, where his neck works to turn his head side to side. Collarbone, just going to pop that in very briefly. And then we're going to pop in the actual pectoral muscles. The abdominal frame we're doing from the bottommost point of the pectorals, like that. You can add more detail. We'll add more detail to these later, as with everything else. That gives you an idea of where they go. So you've got over here, we've got the arm, both arms leading down to elbows, as usual. So, okay, we've got the arms leading down to elbows here. Just take that line out, because that line's wrong. And then leading back up to fists. Now, we're putting in biceps here. Now, very large biceps are a lot more obvious than they are on a normal person. And we would actually be putting in, if we had the visibility for them, the triceps at the back and the bit of muscle that connects to between the tricep and the elbow, which hold most of the tendons that do majority of the work. So putting in the bicep here, slight flattening out the arm, putting in thumb. Again, it's only really light. We have already done this majority of this guy's muscles already, so it's kind of a little bit cheating. Again, another benefit of having a digital system for doing art is you can turn your canvas around very quickly to get to things that you think you've missed. Again, back foot coming in like that. Flattened triangle. And there we have him done for the moment. We're going to come back and do some inking on this either later on this evening. So how long have we been going now? Basil, how long have we been going now?
How long? What?
Yes. Half an hour.
Sorry, I've been kind of focusing on it and zooming out of it.
Ah. Are you feeling alright?
Oh no, I'm fine. Like, feel better than normal. Thanks.
Okay then. Well, tell you what. We've done the basic. We've gone from basic frame to bulking up the character slightly. I'm going to do one last bit on bulking up this character over here. Breasts are not spherical. They do, however, have a sphere in them. Again, exaggeration to make it obvious what we're doing. There is, as I say, a sphere in here, like that. Yeah. I would say, if you're doing a side-on showing, you're wanting about a third of the volume of that sphere should be inside the torso of the person it's on. At that size. The bigger the chest, the more you lose is outside the body, but that is the size. That is a decent size, and I would say that would probably be. So if we go for a smaller size, I'm just going to stick another layer on briefly and do this in red. We're going to do significantly smaller, so we're going to go with half and half. Like that. The point where the chest where the bosom becomes part of the chest should be just inside the midline of the torso, like that. So we're going to put the midline back in again, there, because that is roughly halfway between there and there. It's not quite exact, but you get the general idea. Take the midline back out, there we go. So, Basil, anything you want me to show you before we show people before we look to calling it tonight?
I don't know. I mean, you did draw a muscle too well.
Thank you. Actually, there's one I know that you do like that we haven't had a look at. And let's quickly do that. And what we're going to do is we're going to do from behind. Yeah. So this is going to be quite an exaggerated one, admittedly. So where you've got the muscles coming down from the back of the head, connect between the traps, like that. So we've got the front neck there, bringing our shoulders in. Traps coming down to just before they reach it, putting the bulge of the shoulder joint in. So the spine forms somewhat of a kind of canyon around it. There's not really muscle over your spine. If you can get your hand back there, after the base of the neck, and where it meets the shoulder blades there is not much protection back there in the way of muscle mass. So we use that as our guiding line between these two large rhombuses. I think rhombus is the right word. And then another slightly smaller rhombus where the abdomen is. Bring it into the hips. Like that. Do the back of the arm as well, down to the elbow. So you've got, there's the shoulder. And that shoulder is going in between the bicep and the tricep, so it kind of flows down into the gap between the two of them. Tricep itself is separated either side of the bone. There's the tendons. There's the elbow, bringing the forearm out like that. It's not easy to see at this level of drawing, but if I was going to spend more time on this, you'd be able to see more detail as I went. Oh yeah. 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 So, there we go. We're going to put that off for a moment and bring everything else back up. So next time, we're going to start adding a bit more detail to these guys. And we're going to start adding in inking lines. In fact, I'll show you kind of what I mean. We're going to be bringing in the inking lines to these guys, hopefully with a pen of the right size. To start bringing in the proper details to give these the appearance that we're after. But I think we're about done for this evening. Well, I hope that was educational. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for joining me. I'd like to thank everyone who watches the video, and I hope to see you all again soon. Joining me for some more Bootcamp next week. Until then, have a good evening. Goodbye.